Let me tell you something you might need to hear right now, because if you've ever sat across from someone, heart pounding, wondering if you really matter to them, this is for you. You're not crazy for wanting to feel important in someone's life. You're not asking for too much. Wanting to be seen, prioritized, and deeply valued is not a weakness. It's a reflection of your self-worth. But in a world where mixed signals are treated like normal communication and silence is interpreted as mystery, it's hard to know what's real. So today, I want to give you clarity. I want you to walk away knowing the signs that show undeniably that you are not just someone, you are someone who matters deeply to him. Let's talk about when a man truly sees your worth. When he knows you're not replaceable, when your presence in his life changes the way he breathes. First, he listens, not just with his ears, but with his attention. It's not just about hearing your words. It's about remembering them. It's about you mentioning that you've got a big meeting on Friday, and without you reminding him, he texts you that morning. Good luck today. You're going to crush it. That's not romance pulled from a script. That's someone who holds your life in his thoughts even when you're not there. That's presence. When a man truly values you, he tracks your life because it matters to him. He wants to show up for you, not just with big gestures, but with the small details. And small details are the truth behind the big feelings. Second, he makes time. I don't care how busy he is. Presidents run countries and still find time to call their loved ones. So if he's always too busy, let's be honest, he's not too busy. He's too busy for you. A man who sees your value will carve time out of chaos. He'll make an effort even on his worst day because connection with you feels like peace, not pressure. If one consistently rearranges their life, even in small ways, to make room for you, that's a loud statement. That's saying, you are not an afterthought, you are part of my priority list. Third, he shows up for your lows, not just your highs. Anyone can be there for the party, but who sticks around when you're struggling to stand? Who listens to your tears without trying to fix you? Who just holds space for you to be real? That's the kind of presence that tells you everything. If he sees your mess and leans in closer, that's not just love, that's reverence. You are not just someone he wants when it's easy. You are someone whose storm he is willing to walk into, umbrella or not. Fourth, he integrates you. And this one's subtle but powerful. It's in the way he says we instead of I. It's how he introduces you to his friends, not as someone I'm seeing, but with pride. It's how you start hearing about things in the future and your name is already in the picture. That kind of integration isn't accidental. It's a sign that in his mind, you are becoming part of the landscape. You're not a temporary stop. You're the place he's trying to build toward. Fifth, he respects your boundaries. He doesn't just tolerate them, he honors them. That means when you say no, he doesn't guilt trip or disappear. He appreciates that your needs and values exist, and rather than trying to bend them for his convenience, he learns how to meet them. That's a man who sees your worth. That's someone who doesn't want to own you but walk with you. Someone who knows that loving someone isn't about control, it's about consent and respect and emotional safety. If he listens when you say, this matters to me, and he actually adapts, trust me, that's rare, and it means everything. Sixth, he's consistent, not perfect, consistent. Anyone can say the right things once, anyone can have a good week. But when you look back over time, what do you see? Do you see someone who disappears when it's inconvenient, or someone who shows up even when it's hard? Do you see someone whose words and actions align? Consistency is the real measure of emotional investment. And it's not always loud. It's not always fireworks and long speeches. Sometimes it's a quiet, reliable presence, a text that always comes through, a check-in, a call when he says he'll call. That's not boring. That's beautiful, because you don't build a future with grand moments. You build it with small, steady ones that stack into something extraordinary. Now hear this. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for the moon. You are asking for what every human being deserves: emotional investment, intentional effort, and genuine presence. So if you've been questioning your place in someone's life, hold these signs close and be brave enough to ask yourself, do I feel seen or do I just feel tolerated? Am I important or am I convenient? Because here's the thing, if a man values you, it shows. It's not something you have to beg for or decode or chase. It's in the energy. It's in the effort. It's in the ease with which he says, through action, you matter here. And if you're not seeing these signs, don't panic, but don't pretend. Sometimes we fall for potential. Sometimes we hold on to the way they could treat us if only they realized how amazing we are. But you should never have to convince someone to see your worth. That's not your job. That's their opportunity. And if they miss it, someone else won't. Your heart is not a prize to be won by the highest bidder. It's a space to be honored. It's the place where your laughter lives, your fears hide, your stories are held. You are the culmination of battles fought, lessons learned, dreams protected. You're not a side character. You're the whole damn story. So pay attention. Look not at the words, but at the patterns, not at the excuses, but at the consistency, not at what he says under pressure, but what he does when no one's watching. And when you see those signs, when you see that he listens, makes time, shows up, integrates you, respects your boundaries and stays consistent, know this. You're not just valuable to him, you are irreplaceable. And here's what's even more important. When you start to feel that irreplaceability, don't shrink from it, don't question it, don't sabotage it because it feels foreign. Sometimes, when we finally receive what we've always deserved, it feels uncomfortable. We mistake calm for boredom. We mistake healthy for dull. Why? Because chaos dressed up as passion kept us on edge for so long, we began to think the butterflies were love, when in fact, they were anxiety in costume. So when someone starts to treat you like you matter, when you see consistency where there used to be confusion, when you're no longer up at night wondering where you stand, don't run from it. Lean in. Let it recalibrate your standards. Let it show you what's possible. You are not meant to chase love. You're meant to meet it halfway. You're meant to be chosen fully and freely. And when someone sees your value, they won't hesitate. They won't string you along. They won't breadcrumb you with just enough affection to keep you around, but never enough to feel secure. When you're truly important to him, you won't just feel like a guest in his life. You'll feel like a co-author of the story you're building together. He'll make space for your thoughts, your needs, your dreams, not as a favor, not as something he puts up with, but because your voice matters. Because your fulfillment matters to him just as much as his own. Because love isn't just about feelings, it's about partnership. It's about two people deciding every single day to keep choosing each other, even when life gets messy. This kind of connection doesn't require performance. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need to be smaller to be accepted. You don't need to prove your worth through your silence, your patience, your suffering. That old narrative, the one that told you love is earned through sacrifice alone, burn it. You don't have to abandon yourself to be loved. In fact, the right person won't even let you do that. He'll notice when you start fading into the background, and he'll pull you back into the light. He'll remind you of who you are, not by changing you, but by standing beside you while you grow. And maybe that's the most powerful sign of all, when he's not just attracted to the version of you that's polished and smiling, but he's equally drawn to the parts of you that are healing. The parts that still ache sometimes, the pieces you're still figuring out. If he can hold space for that without trying to fix or rush you, that's rare. That's someone who isn't intimidated by your depth. That's someone who doesn't need you to be easy in order to stay. And let's talk about emotional safety, because it's not just about feeling good on the good days. It's about being able to be vulnerable without fear of punishment. It's about knowing that when you express a boundary, you won't be met with a sigh, a silent treatment, or a withdrawal of affection. Instead, he leans in, he asks questions, he cares because how you feel affects him. That's empathy, that's maturity, that's someone who doesn't just want to be close to your body. He wants to be close to your experience. Real importance isn't proven through grand gestures once in a while. It's in how someone handles the moments where it would be easier to pull away. When conflict arises, when tension builds, when misunderstanding threatens connection, what does he do? Does he get defensive or does he seek to understand? Does he try to win or does he try to repair? These are the moments that define emotional importance. These are the moments where actions scream louder than any "I love you" ever could. And the truth is, you've probably been in situations before where you felt like you had to beg for the bare minimum. You've explained your worth, justified your needs, written entire essays in your head trying to figure out how to be enough. But what you didn't realize is you were already enough. You just weren't with someone who knew how to see it. You were pouring into a cup with no bottom, giving your best to someone who mistook your loyalty for weakness. But those days, they end the moment you realize your value doesn't come from someone else's recognition. It starts with you. The more you recognize these signs, not just in them, but in how you feel when you're with them, the easier it becomes to let go of anyone who makes you feel small. Your nervous system will start to understand what calm feels like, what being cherished, not just tolerated, feels like, what it feels like to finally stop performing and just be. And once you've tasted that, once you've experienced that kind of peace, you'll never again settle for chaos disguised as chemistry. Love doesn't demand you to dim your light, it invites you to shine brighter. And if someone makes you feel like you're too much, they're simply not your match. Because the right connection amplifies your best parts and lovingly holds space for your rough edges. And make no mistake, you're not just valuable because of how you make someone feel. You're valuable because of who you are. The way you show up, the way you care, the way you see the world, the way you bring energy into a room, the way you stay soft, even in a world that tried to harden you, that's priceless. That's not something you can replicate or replace. That's why the right person, when they see you clearly, doesn't risk losing you by being careless. They protect the connection. They fight for it. They nurture it. You don't have to keep auditioning for a role in someone's life. You'd have to keep convincing someone that you're worth staying for. Your place in someone's life should be earned, yes, but not through you sacrificing your peace to maintain it. It should be earned through mutual effort, through mutual care, through a shared belief that love is a choice, not a game. That showing up consistently with kindness and integrity matters more than any romantic one-liner or hot and cold chase. And the beautiful part, when you are important to him, truly, he won't just say it when it's convenient. He'll show it when it counts. When you feel unsure, he'll offer reassurance. When you feel distant, he'll seek closeness. When you need to be heard, he'll listen with his whole heart, not because he's perfect, but because he cares deeply. He knows what he has, and he refuses to take it for granted. You deserve to feel secure in your connections. You deserve to be with someone who not only sees your value, but acts like it. Who shows up for you, not just when the sun is shining, but when the rain falls too. Someone who holds your hand through the mess and doesn't flinch. Someone who looks at your heart and says, I want to understand this. I want to protect this. I want to grow with this. So pay attention, not just to how they make you feel when things are going well, but to how they behave when you're uncertain, when you're vulnerable, when you need more. Because the ones who truly value you won't make you feel like your emotions are an inconvenience. They'll treat them like the map that leads them closer to understanding you. Let that be your new standard. Let that be your filter. Because when you're truly important to someone, you don't have to beg for their time. You don't have to question their effort. You don't have to overthink every text, decode every silence, or wait for the moment they finally get it. They'll already know, and they'll act like it every single day. And when they act like it, when they show up again and again in the ordinary moments, in the quiet mornings, in the long silences, you beg it. And to feel something you might not have felt in a long time, safe. Not just physically, not just safe from harm, but emotionally safe. Safe to be who you are without performing. Safe to say how you feel without fearing it'll scare them off. Safe to dream out loud without worrying that your ambition will be too loud, too much, too inconvenient. That kind of safety doesn't scream, it settles, it calms the noise inside you. And when someone brings that kind of peace into your life, it's not an accident, it's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's because they've chosen every single day to value you in ways that go far beyond surface level affection. Because here's the truth, no one tells you often enough. You're not meant to constantly question your worth. You're not meant to live in a relationship that feels like a test. You're not supposed to wonder if being yourself is somehow the wrong answer. If you're tiptoeing around your truth just to be loved, then what you're in isn't love. It's a performance, and it will leave you exhausted. But when you are truly valuable to someone, you won't feel like you're on trial. You'll feel like you're in partnership. It becomes a shared effort, not a one-person emotional labor project. You both show up. You both try. You both care, even when it's hard. And when disagreements happen, and they will, it's not about who wins. It's about what the connection needs to move forward. Because when you matter, the bond matters more than the ego. Repair matters more than pride. Listening matters more than being right. There's something so grounding about being loved without conditions, not because you fit into a mold, not because you've made yourself smaller to avoid conflict, but because they see your light and your darkness and they choose you anyway, not as a compromise, not as a backup plan, but as an intentional choice. That's the kind of importance that goes deeper than infatuation. That's not a crush. That's not someone obsessed with a fantasy version of you. That's someone who actually knows you and still stays, still builds, still believes. You can feel the difference, can't you? The difference between someone who says all the right things but disappears when you need them most, and someone who may not always have the perfect words, but whose actions wrap around you like safety. The difference between flattery and truth, between lust and love, between wanting someone and actually valuing them. When you're truly important to someone, you're not a convenience. You're not a placeholder until something better comes along. You're not a backup plan or a safety net. You're someone they invest in. And investment doesn't just mean gifts or texts. It means energy, presence, growth. It means they think about the impact they have on you. They don't shrug off your pain with, "I didn't mean it." They want to understand how their actions affect your heart, your trust, your sense of self. Because people who truly value you will care about what it feels like to be loved by them. And that's a powerful question to ask yourself. What does it feel like to be loved by them? Do you feel stronger, or do you feel like you're slowly disappearing? Do you feel energized, or do you feel drained? Do you feel inspired, or do you feel like you're constantly compromising who you are to keep the peace? Because being important to someone means they won't let you carry the emotional weight alone. They won't let you chase clarity. They won't force you to keep proving yourself over and over. When you matter, you're not just heard, you're understood. They want to understand you because that understanding is the bridge to deeper connection. And if you've never experienced that before, I want you to know something. Just because it's unfamiliar doesn't mean it's unrealistic. It's not a fairy tale. It's not too much to ask. It's what happens when tweetbalance. People show up with open hearts, clear intentions, and a willingness to do the work. Not perform, not perfect, just present. And yes, there will be moments of friction. That's natural, that's human. But the difference is, when you're important, they'll meet you in those moments. They'll stand beside you in the discomfort, not run from it. They'll talk with you, not at you. They'll apologize when needed and mean it. They'll grow and invite you to grow with them. Because it's not about winning. It's about building something that actually lasts. You deserve to feel chosen, not for what you offer, not for what you fix, not for how much pain you're willing to tolerate, but for who you are when you stop trying to earn it, for who you are when you take the mask off, for who you are when you're no longer performing strength, when you're honest about your fears, your past, your hopes. You are not a transaction. You are not a task. You are not someone to be loved only when it's easy, when it's convenient, when it fits someone else's schedule or comfort zone. Your heart is not a part-time job. It's a full, beautiful, wild, powerful force. and it deserves someone who doesn't just admire it, but respects the responsibility of holding it. So many people are chasing the high of attraction, but what you need is the calm of connection. The kind of connection that doesn't just ignite, but endures. The kind that builds slowly, thoughtfully, intentionally. The kind that makes you feel more you, not less. And you'll know. You'll know it in the way they look at you, not with possession, but with presence. You'll know it in the way they reach for your hand, not to control you, but to walk beside you. You'll know it in the quiet moments when no one's watching, and they still choose to be kind, to be patient, to be there. This is the standard. This is what you measure by. No intensity, not drama, not unpredictability disguised as passion, but effort, honor, emotional maturity. That is what real importance looks like. That is what you are worthy of right now. Not when you've healed everything, not when you've earned it, not when you're perfect. You already bring so much to the table. Your kindness, your honesty, your resilience, the way you show up for people, the way you love. And none of that should go unseen. When someone really sees it, they won't let it slip through their fingers. They'll hold it carefully. They'll show you with their actions that they're not here to waste your time. They'll be clear, not confusing, steady, not shaky, genuine, not performative. You've outgrown guessing games. You've outgrown the emotional starvation diet of settling for crumbs. You've outgrown trying to turn red flags into green ones by giving more than you have to give. Now is the time to align yourself with the love you've always deserved. The kind that shows up, grows up, and stands up. The kind that doesn't just happen to you, but happens with you. The kind that feels like home, not because it's comfortable, but because it's true. And when you see those signs, when someone proves, not just says, that you are deeply important to them, remember, this isn't too good to be true. This is what happens when you stop settling. This is what becomes possible when you honor your worth. This is what it feels like to finally be loved right. And when you're finally loved right, there's this quiet transformation that happens within you, not because someone fixed you, but because someone loved you without trying to change you. And that kind of love creates space. It gives you room to expand, to breathe deeper, to speak louder. You begin to unfold in ways you didn't even know you'd folded. You start to remember who you were before you were told you were too much or not enough, or only lovable under certain conditions. Because when you're truly important to someone, there's no unspoken pressure to filter your truth. You're not tiptoeing around their moods or burying your needs under a smile. You're not editing yourself for palatability. You are whole, in full volume, in full color, and they don't flinch. They welcome it. They want the real you, not the curated highlight reel, not the version you present to keep the peace. They want the full spectrum of you, the mess, the brilliance, the wounds, the fire. And when that kind of love shows up, it doesn't just impact your relationship. It changes the way you move through life. You walk with more confidence because you no longer question if you're too much for someone to handle. You speak with more certainty because you know your voice matters to someone who's actually listening. You feel more stable, more focused, more grounded because you're no longer pouring all your energy into decoding someone else's behavior. You start protecting your peace differently. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You stop waiting around for someone to wake up and realize what they had, because you understand deeply that the right person doesn't need to lose you to value you. They don't need distance to feel your worth. They know it now. They see it now, and they act like it now. That's what makes the difference. It's not that problems never arise. It's that even when they do, you know you're both still fighting for the same team. You're not adversaries. You're not walking on eggshells. You're not weaponizing silence or pretending everything's fine while resentment simmers beneath the surface. When you're important to someone, they want to fix things because they care about how you feel, not just how they look. You are no longer carrying the relationship on your shoulders. It's mutual. It's balanced. And that balance, emotional, mental, energetic, is everything. It's the difference between feeling cherished and feeling drained. It's the difference between love being a soft place to land or a battlefield you're constantly defending. And here's something you must remind yourself of often. You don't have to earn what should be given freely. You don't have to constantly prove that you're worth loving. Real connection doesn't require endless explanation. It doesn't force you to keep asking, are we okay? Or did I do something wrong? Or why did they go quiet again? When you are important to someone, clarity becomes the norm. Communication flows without manipulation. And even in the hard moments, you don't feel discarded. You feel held. You also begin to realize that presence is love's most powerful language. Not the flowers once a year, not the recycled apologies, but the daily showing up. The steady, conscious choosing, the effort, the awareness, the way they remember the things that make you feel seen, the way they notice when you've had a hard day and step in without being asked to make it lighter, the way they sit with you in silence when words aren't enough. That is how love speaks. Because at the end of the day, love is measured in attention, in effort, in energy. And when someone gives you those things without keeping score, without making you feel like it's a favor, it's because they truly see you as valuable. Not just when you're smiling and agreeable, but even when you're messy, uncertain, overwhelmed. They stay, not because they have to, but because they want to, because they know the privilege it is to be close to someone like you. And when that happens, you stop settling for almost, for someday, for crumbs, because you now understand what it feels like to be nourished emotionally. You know what consistency looks like. You know what it feels like to be emotionally safe, not chronically confused. And that understanding becomes your new standard. You begin to reclaim your time. You walk away faster from situations that drain you. You no longer argue with someone to prove your worth. You no longer beg for basic respect. You no longer cling to relationships that feel like guessing games. Why? Because once you've been truly valued, you can't unknow that experience. Once you've been seen and honored, you can't go back to being invisible. And that's the shift from chasing validation to embodying self-worth, the shift from tolerating chaos to inviting peace, the shift from waiting to be chosen to choosing yourself first, and then allowing only those who align with that choice to walk beside you. The beauty of being loved right is not just in the relationship, it's in the way it mirrors back to you who you are. It's in the way it reveals your softness, your strength, your capacity to give and receive love in healthy, intentional ways. It's in the way it helps you believe again, genuinely, fully, in connection. Not the kind that drains, but the kind that elevates. And maybe you've been through seasons where you didn't know this kind of love was possible. Maybe you've been broken by promises that went unkept. Maybe you've trusted too soon, or stayed too long, or gave too much to someone who never showed up for you. That pain doesn't make you weak, it makes you human, but it also makes you wiser. You now know what to look for. Not words, but patterns. Not charm, but character. Not effort once, but effort always. You've learned to stop asking, how do they feel about me? And start asking, how do I feel about myself when I'm with them? And that question alone can change everything. Because when you are truly important to someone, you feel more like yourself around them. Not less. You don't shrink to fit. You expand to belong. You don't worry about being left for being real. You trust that your realness is why they stay. So notice how they treat your vulnerability. Do they lean in or look away? Notice how they respond when you're hurt. Not easy to love. When you're triggered, when you're tired, when you're not at your best. Notice if they still see your heart in those moments, if they protect it, or if they punish it